Today we're sharing lessons we've learned from 100 breakups. I mean, we've sat with hundreds of couples over the last 24 years, and I've heard so many breakup stories. So in today's episode, what we're doing is sharing 7 repeat patterns that we've noticed lead to most breakups. And no matter how different the situation may be, we've noticed this. These patterns are predictable, and the pain is often avoidable. Welcome to the Campbell and Amanda podcast. My name is Campbell.
My name is Amanda.
Hi, and we're going to get into this one, honey, and I love what we're going to talk about today.
I think this is a powerful one. People need to be taking notes. So much of what you're learning from this is going to be reflective and, analytical, I guess, to say.
Yes.
So we get right into point number 1?
Yeah, go ahead. Pattern number 1.
Pattern number 1. So pattern number 1 is chemistry over character. People putting more stock in chemistry over character. So the mistake is that we fall in love with people's potential instead of patterns, how we feel in the relationship with them over their patterns of their character.
Exactly. We overemphasize the butterflies, and he makes me or she makes me feel this way. And we ignore the little telltale signs that begin to rise in the relationship, the little white lies that are told that we ignore because the chemistry feels right.
Right. I mean, and just like the example of maybe little white lies or, little hiding of financial things, not really open about their financial disclosing financial things, matters. Yeah, not sharing the details.
Not sharing the details. And I mean, you don't want to be talking about the finances like after your first few dates. But I mean, if this is a person that you feel you're going to share your whole life with, at some point through the progression of that relationship, those are some heavy things that you have to talk about. And you have to watch how that person talks about finances, for example, past relationships, for example, their last breakup. How free are they to talk about that? Or are those things that they want to kind of hide from you or gloss over? That is a character issue.
Right. If you bring it up and they avoid the topic, then it is it's an issue. It's a red flag.
That is a red flag.
Something that you have to come back to and talk about.
Yeah. So don't fall in love with the potential that a person has.
Because they make you feel good.
Yeah, because they make you feel good. No, fall in love with the patterns. And that is super important. And here is the main lesson from this, is that attraction without alignment leads to pain.
Attraction without alignment leads to pain. So you could be attracted to somebody, they have really bad character.
Yes.
They're not aligned with your values at all, but you like how they look and you like having fun together. But the character's just not there. You're not in sync. You're not in alignment.
Yes. And I've heard, and I think we're going to touch on this later on, but one of the things I've heard when people talk about falling in love with somebody's, with the chemistry and not the patterns, or when there's misalignment, is people think that they can change that person.
Right.
So just remember this. This is a red flag. Attraction without alignment leads to pain. Almost always it does.
Yeah, because a person without a vision for themselves, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, we want to be whole people coming into a relationship. A person without a vision, the other person, especially women, we often we want to follow a vision, and if there's no vision, then we make that man our project.
Yes. Don't make the dude the project.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna be disappointed. Okay,
right.
We're just putting it out there.
He's got a lot of potential, but he's not your project.
Yeah, exactly. He may be something someday, but you're not the one to work on him. He has to do the work.
He has to.
And growing up, my dad would once in a while, especially during the summers, ask us to read the book of Proverbs, right? Because it's a book of wisdom for those of you that are not in religious world. But I loved the book of Proverbs, and I still do read a lot of the book of Proverbs. And there is one verse in there in Proverbs chapter number 4, verse 7, and it says this: getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment.
I think that's one of the first Bible verses you shared with me, and all you're getting, get understanding, right?
Was it? Oh, Lord.
You wrote down for me, and all you're getting, get understanding.
And all you're getting, get understanding. Yes. And getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. So pattern number 1 Chemistry over character. You always have to watch out for that. Pattern number 2, you want to go there?
Yeah, pattern number 2 is ignoring the red flags. We alluded to some of them in the first pattern. So the mistake is we label serious issues as quirks or things that we think we can fix.
And the red flag is ignored. A red flag ignored, rather, is a boundary violated later.
Wow. Yeah, so we have to confront those things. It's not always easy. Not every personality is one that is happy with confrontation, but we need to talk about something if it rubs us the wrong way, if it's really like pricks us when we see it happen or we see the other person engage in this behavior, especially if it's a pattern of behavior, we need to talk about it.
Exactly. Avoiding the whole conversation doesn't help anybody. Avoiding or ignoring the red flags just hurts you in the long run.
Right.
You know, when you ignore, for example, if a guy is showing signs of flirting, right, with other women, that is a red flag for you as a woman. Because if he is doing it while you are in that relationship, he's going to violate that boundary at some point later on in life.
Right. And likewise, if a woman is allowing too much emotional connection with other men, that is also a red flag, or it's something to be talked about, because if she's not willing to rein it in or to limit that kind of, if she's not a counselor, if she's not a social worker, you really, it's a pattern of behavior that could create some emotional attraction that could hinder the intimacy in your relationship.
Exactly. So pattern number 2, and we see it all the time. Red flags were ignored, therefore it led to a breakup.
Right, and they weren't even addressed.
Yes, they were not even addressed. They were never brought up. You saw it, you ignored it, and that eventually became a boundary violation, and therefore you break up.
Right, and what happens is the boundary is violated over and over and over until the point, and if you don't address it, you get to the point where you've already said, we're done, and I'm not willing to work on this. But you've never addressed it. You've never given the person the opportunity to know that this is your boundary. You just let it go, and then you're like, nope, a boiled pot is completely boiled empty, and you're done.
And you're done. Yep. And you have never given them the chance to change.
Right.
Because if you bring up something to somebody and that person is willing to work on it, and they show that they're working on it,
right,
then that is a relationship thing that you can. There's hope for your relationship.
Right.
But if you keep on ignoring these things and one day you just get to a place where you can't take it anymore, it almost always leads to a breakup, and it's always ugly.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Because the person was blindsided. You never shared that as a red flag before.
Exactly. All right. Pattern number 3, rushing the relationship.
This is a lot of people.
Oh my
teenagers, young adults. It's easy to do.
There's one verse that one of my kind of mothers in the church always used to say to us as young men. She always used to say to us, she was quoting from the book of Ecclesiastes. She says, do not awaken love before it's time. Right? Do not awaken. Why are you smiling?
Because I still say it to you. It's 9:00, honey. Don't awaken love before it's time. Don't I?
Yes, you do. Like, hey, it's 5 p.m. Do you really want to awaken love before it's time? Lord have mercy. Yeah, but it's true. Don't awaken love before it's time. And we see it all the time when people are rushing the relationship.
Yeah.
And the mistake is you went too deep emotionally or physically.
Right.
Very quickly.
Right.
And I mean, first, second date, you are already getting into bed with somebody. You're becoming way too physical with somebody. You are emotionally attacked. Listen, take your time. These relationships that are rushed almost never work out.
Yeah.
And we've seen it time and time again.
And some people are deep people. Personally, I have a hard time with small talk. So I'm somebody who goes deep in conversation. But you can go deep in conversation about things that are meaningful to you, that your values, not about your past breakups or abuse in your past or how you think you're a failure or your emotional trauma or those types of things right away. Eventually you want to talk about those things because it's it makes up, your story. But you don't have to go that deep. Talk about deep things that are about what makes you happy, what your hobbies are, what your values are.
Yes, and what do you want from a relationship?
Right.
You know, those are deep enough conversations for you to go without rushing the relationship. But when people rush these relationships, you know, when people are getting into bed with each other way too quickly than they should, you know, then after you sleep with somebody, you begin to discover the trauma that they have never healed from. You know, the pain that they have never really dealt with. And now you have resurrected something that you cannot deal with. And so instead of dealing with that, you break up, you run away. And if you are the person who never really dealt with those things, you keep all that stuff for the next person that comes around.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be ugly.
It can be ugly. You know, and the lesson here is simple. It's simply this: love that's rushed often skips over the truth.
Love that's rushed often skips over the truth. Yeah, so there's some things in the finding out stages of a relationship that don't get found out.
Yes.
You know, there's some truths that need to be discovered. And when you are so passionately in, dare I say, lust, if you're so passionately in lust because you've rushed into a physical relationship, then you're not going to have those conversations to unearth the truths, the deep truths of who you are.
Exactly. You know, and again, going back to another verse that was always brought up with me is there's time for everything. To everything, there is a time, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to have that mentality in your relationship. You have to take it slow. You have to, if you're in this for the long haul, you want to take it slow. You want to get to know the person and you want the person to get to know you. Don't rush the relationship. When you do, that often ends up in breakup.
Yeah, because you're not only exploring the other person, but you're also discovering things about yourself. And you want to take some time to reflect, why do I feel attracted to this person? Why does this type of, because you'll find a pattern of behavior in yourself.
In yourself, yeah.
You know, and you get the chance to reflect, why am I attracted to this person? What happened, or what have I done, or what patterns of thinking have I created that cause me to go down this rabbit hole every time? You know.
And we also give this advice to people that just got married. Oftentimes we say to people that as much as you can, try and wait before you have kids. Because there are people that rush to have children. And I understand if that's your thing, go ahead. But one of the things that we have seen, listen, we have been at this for a bit. We have seen people get into marriage, start having kids almost immediately, and then see those people have those children graduate and move out of the house, and that couple end up in divorce because for the first time they find that they are strangers to each other. Because the moment a kid comes into your life, and I think we've mentioned this in one of our podcasts, but the moment a kid comes into your life, it changes the dynamic of your relationship with your partner.
Yeah, because you are not freely available to each other all the time. You have responsibility to your child, and the child is helpless, reliant, completely dependent on you as caregivers. And so that does create a separation. You know, how many times did I sleep in another bed when JoJo woke up in the middle of the night? And went somewhere else so that you could sleep because you were working two jobs, you know, and again, we're not going to awaken love the next morning at 9 o'clock.
No.
Because the child has to be fed and the child's not taking a nap. And
exactly. And it's like, dude.
We got to work.
I got to go to work. And the other thing, too, is that, you know, children become the buffer between you and your spouse because they become the, and what I mean by that is that you as a couple don't deal with and address the issues that come up because the child is the excuse, you know?
And on the other end of that, you also don't, your shared vision is now taking care of a child. Whereas if you wait, you will have a shared vision for your life. What is your 5-year plan, you know? What do you want to, what kind of a home do you want to have? Do you want to own a home? Do you want to travel? You know, what is your life plan together? What are you building together other than a family? Because otherwise your children will become your purpose and you're creating a life for them. And when they're out on their own, you've not created a life for yourself as a couple.
Yeah. So don't rush relationships. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't rush them. All right. Pattern number 4. You want to go there?
Pattern number 4, hoping they'll change without fruit, without the evidence that they are actually changing. So the lesson is change isn't real without consistency. Yeah.
Yes. And the mistake that you made was that you stayed based on promises. Right? You stay in the relationship based on what somebody promises you rather than their actions, rather than the patterns that you see.
Right.
And oh my gosh, how many times have we seen this? You know, he's going to change. She's going to change. She said or he said he was going to do this. And when you start digging in and you start asking, well, what is the evidence that this person has changed or is changing?
Right. You know, a lot of couples don't go to counseling until they absolutely have to. And, you know, sometimes one spouse will not even want to go to counseling. So there's no evidence that they want to work on the relationship if they're not willing to even come together with a third party to have conversation, to discuss it, to work through the challenges they've not been able to work through on their own.
Exactly. And I just want to say this to everybody out there. Don't hold on to the hope that somebody is going to change if they're not showing you that they're actually making progress towards the goal.
Right.
All right? If you see them make a promise and break it, that is a character flaw. That is a pattern. All right? And this is why, again, and you may call us old school, traditional kind of people, but we do believe in that courtship. We do believe that when you start dating somebody, yes, you're talking about, if you're serious, you want to talk about marriage, you want to see yourself with this person for the rest of your life. But for crying out loud, take your time. You don't have to rush down the aisle. You know, take your time. And we personally recommend anywhere between 2 to 4 years in a courtship.
Unless you're in your 30s and 40s. I mean, because you've had a chance to establish, to discover who you are, you know, especially when you're young. We were in our early 20s.
No, but what I mean is that when they're in the relationship with the person, right? I mean, you can be in your 40s, but if you meet somebody today, it doesn't just mean because you're in your 40s, you should get married quickly.
True.
You don't know that person.
True.
You know what I mean? So you want to take your time to get to know the person. That is the point of courtship. That is the point of staying in that non-married status for a bit, because at some point, the true colors that who the person really is, begin to show.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's okay for you to walk away.
Yeah, it's easier to walk away when you have not invested yourself emotionally and physically at a deep level.
When you've not rushed.
When you've not rushed.
Exactly. And so that is pattern number 4. And we see it over and over again, hoping that somebody will change without the fruit. Okay. Pattern number 5. Well, first of all, I love this. I think Jesus said this, right? Matthew chapter number 7, verse 16, he said this, that by their fruit you will recognize them.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter if you go to a tree and somebody told you it's an orange tree, but it has apples on it. It doesn't matter what somebody said. Okay? The fact of the matter is that this is an apple tree.
It's not an orange tree.
It's not an orange tree because the fruit says it is what it is. Right? So it doesn't matter if somebody says, oh, I'm purpose driven, I have vision, I have a plan, or I love you and these are the commitments I'm making. What matters is evidence.
Right.
What matters is proof.
If you want to, you know, you're talking about a wedding. Oh yeah, you know, we're engaged, but you're together for 4 years before you get married. Because he says, yeah, I'm building a home for you. But he's done nothing to talk to a real estate agent. He's done nothing, or they've done nothing to really make that happen. It's
basically they have a failure to launch.
They have a failure to launch. Yeah.
Remember that movie, Failure to Launch?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically somebody has said, this is who I am, this is what I'm planning for you, but they never, ever make an effort to become that. That is a red flag. And if you have not rushed into the relationship, and if you are not hoping that they will change, it's way easier for you to walk away from that relationship. Okay? All right, pattern number 5.
Pattern number 5. Losing yourself in the relationship. So the mistake is you compromised your values, your voice, or your vision to keep them. And you know, and I've had this conversation this week with some workmates, because some of them could be my children. But you know, I know of a person whose girlfriend at the time said, if you leave to go away to college, we're done. And so they compromised their future to stay with that person.
Now, that is one of those things, and I know somebody else who made an education decision because the girlfriend at the time told them that this is what they should do. But this person was not on that path. You know what I mean? And if somebody tells you to change who you are, they tell you to change your values, they tell you to change your vision, they tell you not to be so outspoken, basically your voice doesn't fit into their world, that is a huge red flag. Run.
Yeah.
Run.
Because you'll be having to hide your whole life.
Yes. And oh my goodness, how many people have we seen finally get to a place in their life where that I'm not going to do it anymore.
Right.
And they have been together quite a while. Like, no, I'm done. I'm not going to do it anymore. I want to be myself. And those people finally make that decision. But why didn't you make it before?
Because they went too deep too quickly. They rushed.
They went. Yeah, they rushed. They rushed the relationship. But losing yourself in the relationship, that is a huge pattern. And love never requires you to disappear. That's a lesson.
Love never requires you. I'm repeating these because they're important. Love never requires you to disappear.
Yes. And that is one thing. And I'm thinking around, maybe I need to do some stuff around manhood as well, because I am worried. I'm worried about young men who are being told, who are basically being sold a vision of masculinity that is toxic, that is just poisonous to them, and unfortunately to the women they might be involved with, whether now or at some point in life. Basically, what is being told to these young men is a very macho, misogynistic kind of manhood. To me, that is so corrosive.
Even in the church.
Oh, yes.
Especially in the church.
Like, it is sickening. My friend and I were just having this discussion today via text, and I'm like, it's sickening to see what some people in church world are perpetrating or promoting as real manhood. And basically, we're teaching young men to silence the voice of women in the relationships. We are telling young men that they should force their vision on young women. Basically, and we're saying to the young women in church world, like, it's okay for you to disappear. For you to be voiceless. That makes me mad.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing, when we were dating or we were engaged, actually, people, they voiced their opinion because they didn't know you, but they were concerned about this very thing that, I was on the path to ministry and being in, having, some sort of voice in ministry, pastoring in a church world. And so people were afraid that I would be marrying an African and barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen all the time.
Yeah.
And not have a ministry or not have, my own path and my own voice.
Yes.
And that happens far too often. It didn't happen to us because, people didn't know you and they didn't take the time to get to know you. But it was, it was something that it is something that happens often. Yeah.
And imagine what they're also saying about you is that you're not able to make a good judgment about the character of a person.
Right.
That you would just capitulate to whatever, quote unquote, this man would say to you, and therefore would live a life barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. Right?
Yeah, but not even having these conversations with us, having out of concern, having these conversations with other people behind our back.
Us, yeah. Right? Hello.
Anyway,
we digress.
We do. I was going to say that.
Okay, so that's the thing. Losing yourself in a relationship. If somebody's advocating for you to be lost in a relationship, for you to be silent, that's a red flag. And it always leads to breakups, and we have seen it over and over again. The other thing too is this, and I've seen men do this, where they become intimidated because, for whatever reason, because they of their own low self-esteem, become intimidated by the woman's success, the woman's confidence. Like, oh my goodness, I find that to be attractive. I find confidence and having a go. And to be honest with you, that's why I got my wife, because people were afraid of her. Men were like, she's too serious. I'm like, that's what I want.
Which Did you say that? They were afraid of me?
I think they were, honey. I
Okay.
think they were afraid of you. Like, oh my gosh, you're dating a man.
Intimidated.
Intimidated. Afraid.
Yes. Okay. But I have somebody that I grew up with for a period of time who his wife has been the sole provider for their family for a long time, and I really admired his ability to be able to step back, to be a stay-at-home dad, to have his own. He was an entrepreneur, and he did his thing when his wife was not working, and he took care of the children. And now he's in a new career at the point, once the children are at a point where they're in school and they're able, the parents are able to work, both of them, full time. So sometimes you do that, and men should equally be able to do that for their wives as much as women can do that, and more often do for their husbands.
Yeah, and that's why I say, to me, one of the biggest models for a real man, if we wanted to, even for those people that are religious and want to look at the Bible, for me, the model is not a King Saul. It's not a King David who was a warrior. It's not all these men that had prominence. For me, the model man is Joseph, the father of Jesus. I love Joseph, the father of Jesus. After Jesus' birth, the Bible is silent about him. The one who is the star of the story in that relationship is the wife.
Mary.
It's Mary. But think about this. He comes to her defense, right? He marries her. He loves her, has several children by her, raises those children, raises this man that he knew was
Not his.
Very, very special. Teaches him how to be a productive man in society as a carpenter, right? All this time taking a back seat and never running after notoriety and beating his chest and say, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Right.
To me, that is a real man. A man who is able to allow his wife and his son to take the limelight so that he can be himself.
It's humility.
It's humility. And what I see in the world today being promoted as manhood is just really insecurity that is masked with just all this bravado and misogynistic language. No, these are small, insecure men that cannot stand a woman to be successful. But I digress.
We digress. Losing yourself in relationship was point number 5.
Can you tell I'm passionate about this?
All right, so pattern number 6.
Pattern number 6, let's go.
Choosing based on loneliness and not wholeness. We've talked about this in another podcast, learning to live a single life, which means you're whole, even when you come into marriage, coming to the marriage a whole person already, not you complete me or that. But
and that's the mistake.
Yeah.
You're looking for someone to complete you.
Yeah.
Right? But whole people always attract whole relationships.
Right. Yeah. They're not one-sided. They're not going to disappear. They're not going to make the other person their project. You're looking to be a partnership.
Exactly. And again, it goes back to what you have said and what we have said in the past. Invest time in getting to know yourself first.
Right.
Get to know yourself first. Get to know your vision, your values. Get to know the distinction of your own voice.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you do that, you're naturally going to attract somebody who is not intimidated by the person that you are.
Right.
Right? And yes, but that is a mistake that we have seen. People choose because they're lonely, because they need community and they need company instead of wholeness.
Right.
Okay. Last one. Not healing from the last one.
Right, because I mentioned it like a few minutes ago. You're going to repeat the pattern. You're just going to find another one that looks like the last one, and you're going to get hurt all over again. Yeah, or you're going to...
you basically rebounded to escape the pain,
right,
instead of processing it.
And you might take it out on the new guy, too. And this guy might be the right guy, but you're going to push him away because all the pain that you had, you're putting on him.
Yes.
Or her. Like, I'm just speaking from the women's perspective.
Yeah, you begin to bleed on a person that didn't catch you.
Right, yeah.
Right? And so it's super important for you to, when you have a breakup, don't rush into the next relationship before you heal from the last one. Because the guy or the girl that you're going to fall in love with, gentlemen, is going to be paying for the last girl that dumped you, the last girl that cut you down. And so you're going to begin to project on this new person who might be the right person for you, but you're going to push away because you didn't process the pain.
Right. Or you might hold back, or you might go too deep too quickly. So you can go to either extreme because of the pain that you have not processed.
And it's super important for you to remember that unhealed wounds infect the next connection.
Say it again.
Unhealed wounds infect
the next connection. And you don't want to be an infection.
No. No, you don't want to be an infection.
There's no antibiotic that can fix it.
No, you do
can't.
not want that. No, you can't. And that's the thing, though, that, people need to heal and not take the infection of their last relationship into the new one. And this is why, and we have seen these over the last 24 years that we have been talking to people, counseling couples. We have seen these things over and over and over again. People rush into the next relationship. People lose themselves. People get into relationships because of loneliness, right? And not wholeness. And we keep on seeing these 7 patterns repeated over and over again. And we don't want you to make the same mistakes.
Right. So what does the Psalm say? Psalm 147. 3, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. So you need time and space away from a serious relationship like that you can find healing, that you can be, that your broken heart can heal.
Yes. You do really
to become whole again.
To become whole again, so that the next person really gets the best of you.
Yeah.
Right. And I get it. Sometimes people are afraid to face the pain. And they feel like filling the void with somebody else is going to make the pain of the last relationship go away. But the truth is that if you haven't dealt with this at some point, it's going to come up. And it's going to injure the current relationship that you have. And you're going to lose somebody who was actually meant for you because you are too afraid to deal with the pain. If that person loves you, and it's okay, don't get me wrong. I think that people stay away from the next relationship because, number one, they feel like they haven't healed enough. Number two, they feel like what happened to them in the previous one is going to happen to them in the next. It's okay for you to be on the path of healing and say to a person who might be interested in you, hey, I just want you to know that I'm still healing from my last relationship, right? If that person is really interested in you, they're going to hang around.
Yeah.
They're going to wait for you, right? They're going to say, you know what? I'm attracted to you so much that I'm willing to wait for you to be healed and whole so that you come as yourself to our relationship.
And even within our own relationship, I've joked about it before that I broke up with you twice. I did break up with you the first time for a different reason as the second time. The second time I was scared, and there was a certain level of fear and hurt, like from my own childhood history that made me project on you, I thought maybe you would hurt me in the same way. And so I rejected you before you could reject me. But you said, I'm willing to wait. I mean, you were brokenhearted. The first time you did pursue me back. The second time you waited for me to work through it and to come back. But you didn't move on to a new relationship. You were still brokenhearted. Yep. You prayed for me, and you just, you put, what'd you do? Sick, TT Rainey on me?
No, she basically came to me. She's like, if you want this. And I told her, I'm like, I'm sure TT Rainey is going to see this, but I say to her, I'm like, listen, if she wants this, she has to be the person that comes to me. The first time I pursued her, because I don't want to be the only person who's pursuing in this relationship. So if she really wants, I didn't break up with her. The girl dumped me. So if she wants me back.
But the point is that, there will be times in relationships where you might be afraid because you've had a lot of pain in the past, or maybe you've had several breakups, or, that's common for a lot of people. And so there is some fear. And so sometimes you'll push the other way. But if they're willing to work through that with you,
yes,
then there's somebody who is worth your energy to try to trust and, to be in a relationship with them.
Yeah. All right. So those are the 7 patterns, but we also want you to walk away with three key lessons from this, and then we're going to conclude with this. Okay, so key lesson number one is this: breakups don't have to define you. They can actually refine you. They can teach you a lot about yourself and what to look for in the next relationship.
Because
your mistakes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, your mistakes are not your identity.
They're your classroom.
Yes, they're your classroom. Right? Learn from your failures. Learn from your mistakes. Your breakup doesn't have to define you. If you treat it the right way, it can actually refine you. You want to go lesson number 2?
Lesson number 2, what you choose today determines who you attract tomorrow. So do the inner work now. Like I said, get out your pencil and your paper so you can reflect on and analyze and think over your own relationships. The relationship you want is shaped by the healing that you commit to today and moving forward.
Exactly. So, and then lesson number 3 is this, and we fundamentally believe this, and you may be a religious person, or you may be a person that believes in a higher power, the universe, or whatever you want to call it. But for us, we do believe in God, and we believe this with all our hearts, that God uses heartbreak to redirect you and never to punish you, right?
Yeah.
God can take the ugly parts of our lives and use them to set us on the right path. And oftentimes it is, and don't get out of this mindset if you have it, where you think that everything bad that happens to you is because God brought it to you. Oftentimes we find ourselves on the wrong path, in the wrong relationship, getting hurt because we didn't follow those 7 patterns, or we were not really looking for those 7 patterns. So we get into that place of a mess and hurt because of our own decisions. But God doesn't look at your bad decisions and go like, you deserve it. No. God looks at your bad decision and says, I can make something out of that. And so God is able to take those bad decisions, those heartbreaks, those heartaches that you have, and use them to shape the next phase of your life. He can use them to redirect you.
Yeah, to redeem what has happened and to renew you, so that as you put the time in and heal, that you will be able to overcome those same patterns yourself and get to a healthier place to have a healthier relationship.
Yeah, and remember this, that closed door, that closed relationship may have been God's clearest sign of protection that you didn't recognize in the moment.
Yeah.
It may have that you realize these patterns and you broke up. It hurt you. You mourned over that relationship, but that closed door may be God's clearest sign of protection. He is protecting you from what you do not even see coming your way. You know? Yeah. And I love, of course, Romans 8:28 says this, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and according to his purpose, right? All things work together in concert, in collusion.
Yeah, because bad things happen to good people all the time. And, if we have changed our perspective around it, that God is not out to hurt us, we're in a place where our life's, the things that have hurt us in life are our lessons that we can lean into, that will lift us up in the future.
Exactly. All right. So here's our final takeaway, friends. You don't need another breakup to teach you. You just need to pay attention to what the last one was trying to say to you. You don't have to keep attracting the same pain when God is ready to give you a newfound peace. And the version of what you choose is already being formed right here, right now. And we hope and pray that you can look at your own life, look at whether you have succumbed to any one of these patterns, but always remember that God is in the business of redemption. Right?
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything to our friends before we leave?
I mean, I was formulating it in my head like 10 minutes ago.
All right.
But honestly, failure, again, what we consider failure is just an opportunity to learn and to grow and to come to a place where we have a clear picture of our preferred future, and that's called vision. And when you do, then you won't be in a position to have boundaries violated. You'll be able to see the red flags. You won't be making decisions based on loneliness. You'll be making decisions based on your wholeness. So invest in learning from what you might call the past failures, and and seek wisdom, because wisdom, in all you're getting, get understanding, get wisdom. Wisdom will direct you.
Exactly. All right, friends. And if you're looking to know the number one reason most relationships fail and how to fix it, we did a video on that. We did a podcast on that, and you can watch it right here. Otherwise, please subscribe, share this with somebody you think it will help. And we're looking forward to seeing you right back here next week. Have a great week. God bless. Bye-bye.